Alright, welcome back to another episode of Spoiler Talk, where we talk spoilers. This week, we're in a kind of samurai phase at the moment. We're still in lockdown. I'm playing a fuck ton of Ghost of Tsushima, or however you say it, and it's the best thing ever. It's the greatest game. So I was like, we should do more samurai stuff, because recently we've watched some Kurosawa films, and then we watched Lady Snowblood, which was they've all been pretty fucking good. But this week, I was like, we should watch fucking this other film. And you're like, maybe we should watch this film. And I fucking thank you. My God. This is the greatest movie ever made. This is so much better than I thought it was going to be. This has got the best shots ever put on film. It's got the best fire I've ever seen. It's got the best kill of an incredible character. It's got everything I'd want. It's got insane costumes, makeup, and a crazy big, epic story. And it was very sad and very long. I very much enjoyed it. Kieran, what'd you think?
I am right with you. This movie really does live up to the word epic in a way that so few movies that are given that title do. It is beautiful. I think the cinematography is the absolute, for me, standout.
Yeah.
Above all else. And that is not to discredit the performances or the costumes or the action set pieces or any of it, but the cinematography makes me question whether you ever need a close-up shot.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's almost none in this movie.
None.
And what did we lose? What did we lose? Did we lose intimacy with the characters? No. Do we lose the tension in the scene? Fuck no. We gain so much more by letting the action play out. He's not shooting it with wide angle lenses, mind you. They're all telephoto, but he gives the characters so much room to move around the frame, and there's compression in the image, so we get foreground and background, and I was floored by this movie. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Yeah, I was in a bit of awe. Some parts of it I was like, am I even listening to, am I following properly? Because I'm just so like that, yeah, especially in the middle bit where it's suddenly it goes all red wedding and they just attack the castle. I was just just in a state of what the actual fuck am I looking at? It kind of felt like I was almost just watching it actually happen.
Yeah.
Which sounds kind of insane, but I was kind of he's, just so oh my God, I don't know. I'm generally finding it hard to even be I don't even know where to start. There's so much going on. So one thing I found kind of interesting, it's apparently based off one of Shakespeare's tales, King Lear.
Yeah.
Or inspired by it in some way. I have no fucking idea what that movie play or whatever
Same.
is. So there was no moment where I was because I've seen Kurosawa's other movie, Throne of Blood. Pretty sure it's called, and that's Macbeth.
Good.
And I watched that.
Of
yeah,
course it's good. It's
fucking sick. Yeah. I think I remember watching it at the same time I watched Seven Samurai, and remember being not so much this one for me. Yeah. But I reckon I was probably maybe not the age, but maybe I was studying Macbeth, so it was I think I was watching it because of that. They're watch this Macbeth, and I'm I might also watch the Kurosawa Macbeth. Oh my God. Yeah. And maybe my teacher recommended, but I don't remember a lot about it. I can't, yeah. But that was very much sorry, my point is, I was what the fuck's my point? The point was that I was watching it and I was this is Macbeth. There's the three witches and they're oh, the three witches, ooh. And I think it's just one witch maybe, but I was the beats I knew. Whereas I knew this was based on King Lear, and I was kind of curious whether I was I've seen this play, but I had no idea. Thought the story of this king at the start where he's I will give the 3 lands to my 3 sons, and I was immediately that's not going to go well. The film's presenting this in a way where I was I know how it's going to happen, but immediately in that one scene, it just all kind of goes to shit. Yeah, I loved that at one point his banished kind of servant who kind of ends up being kind of a Jorah kind of character who gets banished and coming back. That banished Jorah character, and then the Joker jester fool character, finding the king, and that kind of dynamic I found just awesome. Like, so, like, there was, like, moments where they were, like, in parts, like, I don't know, there was parts of the film where it was, like, almost like Mordor, you know, when they're like, there was, like, the Astar Plains or something like that. I can't remember, but, like, it had that kind of almost, like, I don't know, Mordor-y kind of volcanic vibe to, like, the Ash Plains.
What you saying that, it really reminded me of the opening of Rogue One. You know where they shot that?
The start of this movie.
A decent, there's an area that they say they're going to flat plains or something.
There's something plains or whatever. And it's got this whole different vibe to it.
Volcanic is the right word. You just said, that felt very much like that. But then we get the kind of rolling green hills and...
It's so beautiful.
I've never been happier for something to be... this is a director who really does feel like he is on top of his game. And the fact that he's 40 years into his career by this point...
Dude, do you know how old he is when he made this?
Hell.
75 fucking years old.
So he's like a Ridley Scott. You know,
dude, he's old. That's so old, man.
Well, that's what, like,
so
there are I guess the directors of the 70s that are working today are kind of probably the best.
Yeah, but what are they making, Kieran? Are they making Rand?
Fuck all. No, they're
no, exactly.
They're tarnishing their reputation.
Are they on a set with 200,000 horses on like 7 different rolling hills? It's like, that's some of that stuff. I was just like, what the fuck? That scene where like that. Oh my god, I couldn't even handle some of the stuff, man. Like that scene at the end when like they like look at the rolling hills and the army just appears, and then they go to the other rolling hill and the army just appears, and the bit where it's like, that's a decoy, and like they've got their flags and they're cheering in the distance, and just, you know, the one thing that it did in this battle that kind of retroactively has made me kind of get angry at something I never hated before. I don't know what I'm saying, but in almost every single Game of Thrones battle, there's like this thing that I've always been told by people who are like naysayers, up until we all hated it. But you know, when it was good and I loved it, people would be like, "Oh, the Battle Bastards, it's an alright battle." But that bit where like Ramsay and Jon stare at each other and like they can kind of read their facial expression, I'm like, shut up! It's a goddamn movie. Shut up! Like, give them some cinematic license, you son of a bitch. Like, you got to give them something. But you know what? This movie really made me go, I don't know if you need that.
No, it proves that you...
No, because they see it there. And it's such a good thing, because he looks over there and he's like, it's the army. And it's like, they think it's the army. And then he's just suddenly like, this guy on a horse runs up to me. He's like, they're attacking the castle. He's like, what? But what about oh my God, they're decoys. And it's just like, the deception and the way you can do everything when it is kind of a bit like, yeah, well, he doesn't actually know who's over there doing what, and it was so good.
This movie came out in 1985 and feels more...
it's fresh. It is.
I
don't know why this isn't hailed as the war movie, because it's like, I feel
it's
like...
It's not even really hailed as the Kurosawa movie, which is...
I think it's much better than the other ones, to be honest. I thought this was so good. I had so much more fun with it. Not fun, it's harrowing at moments, but
it's certainly someone who has, while I understand people may enjoy other movies more, and I haven't seen his whole filmography, but at this point I don't know why I'm even watching anything else. I need to just watch everything he's done, because everything I've watched so far has just it's awakened the love of cinema in a way that I didn't think someone making a movie in 1985 would be able to do. I thought I knew what the 1980s was, but I have no idea, because this movie came out right in the middle, and it's brilliant. It really felt like as the movie was coming to a close, and we get this kind of stark, dour final few shots of the blind brother, on top of the hill, and I was just sitting there like pondering what he was trying to say, and I just thought, I'm going to get so much out of this on a rewatch. There's so much going on here. There's so many rich characters. Everything worked, and I felt like I got to a point when everything was building at the end, and I kind of thought, all right, we're going to get the big battle, and we don't really get it.
No, there's no... Oh, there's a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a little skirmish and they run back into the woods and there's some,
Yeah,
you know...
bit of gunfire.
Which is exactly what would happen because they were hopelessly outnumbered.
Yeah.
Completely surrounded. So, of course, you retreat and you do whatever you can. And even still, they managed to surprise and subvert and...
You know what they did really well? Is there's a moment where the blue sun rocks back up. Sarato or
the
something
youngest.
like that.
Yeah.
Yes, and he's like...
Saburo.
That's it. And he's back and he's like, I'm back. Look at me. I'm all in my blue and shit. You remember me? And I'm like... Yeah, hours ago. I do.
He was the one that was like, right about his father, right at the beginning of the movie. He calls him out. And
it's such a... I found it so fascinating to have him gone for so long, have all the things that, like the developments of the story and everything, and then you're like, oh yeah, it actually feels really nice that we didn't see him off doing like a side plot, you know, kind of mission thing, and then he just kind of... He comes back into the story at the end for this final battle, but then there's no final battle. It's all like sending people here, doing this, and then he runs off. And then when he gets shot at the end, that is such a odd and like kind of just heartbreakingly like kind of pointless. Just, you know, he just gets shot in the horse so like by these like couple of assassins that come in. It just feels so like undignified and brutal. And he's kind of saved his, you know, his father who's kind of, you know, turned on him. But I don't know. It reminded me a lot of the Two Towers guy gets banished, you know, banished by the crazy evil father, but he comes back at the end.
Yeah. Is it Grey Worm? Is that his name?
No, Grey Worm's the bad guy. I'm thinking of the guy who's in Doom. He's in
the King of Rohan. Is that what?
No, yeah, no. I'm thinking of his son. Not his son. It doesn't matter. I can't remember his name. Eomer.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. But I thought I don't know. The king was pretty incredible. Like from his first explosion out of like his sleep, where he like runs through the curtain kind of area, and he's like spouting a bunch of nonsense dream stuff. Like from going where he is at the start of the movie, some of the scenes at the end where he's just like a rambling lunatic old man. He's got that big dramatic like kind of paint or, you know, makeup on. He's just looking crazy, senile and insane. I thought he was fantastic.
There's a brilliant line around that moment with the Fool character, and I can't quite remember it, but he says something like, we've swapped places, or far more poetic than the way I'm saying it now. But I just remember being like, oh wow, that's there's so much work here. It actually felt like there was so much packed in, even though it was 2 hours 40 minutes. It's not a short film, but I didn't really feel the length. I remember pausing it at one point, thinking I'd watch 10-20 minutes, you know, to go make a coffee or a tea or something, and pausing it and realize I was over an hour into the film.
Oh my god, yeah.
And I went, oh my god, I'm really... Because in my head I thought, this has taken a while. You know, I'm 20 minutes in, not a lot's happened. And then I pause it and I'm like, oh, I'm an hour in. And that reinvigorated me. So, and I came back, sat down. I think it was around that point that we have the first... you know, the father goes to the empty castle, and then there's the huge... Or the battle.
The set piece of the movie, yeah. That
where the two older sons rock up and the older son is killed. I really want to... Can we talk about maybe my favourite character in this? The wife. Former... So the king is a former warlord who obviously won and has reigning over the kingdom. But the daughter of one of the people he overthrew is still sitting around scheming and manipulating, and very, very effective character that really surprised me. I thought she was portrayed incredibly, and twists and turns I didn't see coming, and her death at the end was just shocking. Even the right-hand man of the second brother was a great character who I didn't even really think about as a character until I realized how much input he had in the film, you know, giving the fox head and being like, no, you need to be really careful.
The fox head was one of my favorite bits. He's like, are you mocking me? And he's like, oh, look at her. She's so clever. She's a fox now. She's just a statue. And he's like, you're mocking me. It's like, oh my God. That's so good.
Telling the wife to get out of there. And yeah. And then right at the end, he just comes back in. He's like, you fucked everything up and just decapitates her. But it's not gratuitous. It's slash and you just see the wall behind.
That moment is like, that kind of stuff is like, that's the most, like, that's so good. Like, I like screamed out loud. It was such a, I don't know, that's the perfect, like, it was so over the top with so much blood. I felt like there hadn't been a moment like that, but it was also so shocking that she's kind of so influential and kind of, I don't know, I bet you if I rewatched it, it's, yeah, no, and I think, I could be wrong, but she comes into it not late, but it's like kind of, I feel like the table is set, and it's like, okay, here we go. And then I feel like she only becomes major after the king gets attacked and kind of starts going mad. And then it's like, oh, wait, what the fuck? Is she now the main character? And she's like manipulating everything, doing these things. I kind of felt like she was like, I really don't want to get into it, but it kind of made me go, this is what Sansa should have been like with Ramsay and just all that kind of stuff. It's like really kind of going, you know what? If I have to get my hands dirty, I'm getting them dirty. I'm getting in here and I'm getting everyone fucking killed because fuck all these guys. And then at the end, I guess I don't know, like she probably would be like, not happy with, but being like content with her work being done. But just, yeah, that moment of them walking in and he does the motion and then like that second later where they're like, get ready to die, my lord. And he's like, oh, damn.
Well, she plants the doubt in the oldest son's mind, Taro, very early and says, there was a banner in here. And
yes, the first scene, right? Is that her first scene? Right?
That's it, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And she says, he took the banner and he still has the title. So you're not the ruler. You are, like... So then we get the confrontation where he's like, you know, sign this pledge. And the guy who reads the pledge out is like, well, you've already said this in front of everyone, so who gives a shit? Just sign it. But that is really the first bit of tension we see where the king, or the former king, is really starting to turn against everyone. And I don't know if it's mania or if it's, you know, I think the son says you're either mad or senile. And we don't really find out which one it is.
Well, it's
probably a mixture of both.
I think it's an interesting kind of case of he kind of, I don't know, it's hard to say because at the start of the movie I did not find him very sympathetic. And obviously towards the end of the film he becomes, you know, incredibly sympathetic just by being so insane and like that moment where he's like kind of vaguely recognizes that Sabuto might be like is potentially his son again, and like I don't know, like, you know, when he's like crawling in the dirt at the end, he's like, leave me in my grave and all that stuff. I was like, oh my God, I'm like so on his side. But at the start of the movie, he's like, oh, I don't know. I was about to say at the start of the movie, he's kind of like pretty intense and blunt, but even from the get-go, when he does that arrow, like the moment I realized I was in was the arrow bit. Where he was like, you know, the 1, 2, 3 arrows. Because as soon as he brings out the 3 arrows, I was like, I know what he's going to do. And then one of the 3 brothers, like, fucking just making sure he
Saburo
has to snap
just cracks it over his knee. He's like, this is ridiculous.
Like, yeah. You're stupid, foolish. And it's like, just everything, even just down to them all having a single clothing color and the way it was all big, like a big outside area and big green grass. The color just...
If I'm not mistaken, the armies retain the colours of those the brothers at the beginning. I'm pretty sure.
There was a moment where we see the brothers a bit later, and one of it might even be a different character. I can't remember, but I just remember at some point I was suddenly like, oh no, I don't think they're wearing the colours anymore. Oh no, don't. I wasn't paying attention to anything at the colours. Oh no, and then the armies rocked up. I'm like, nah, sweet.
Yeah,
that's the yellow and red colors. I get it. It's the brothers. Yeah, I'm on board. The blue guy's gone. I've got it. I'm back. But I just looks so good. It kind of, I even just the moment at the start when they're all just standing there, like on the horses. And it just starts and it's like, fuck yeah. This movie looks so good. And then they're chasing the boar and stuff. And he's like, the boar is no good. It's no good. And I remember he's like, the boar's no good. We won't eat it. And I'm like, oh my God, that's going to be a metaphor for something in the movie. I just feel it. You know, like chasing and killing something and then being like, you know what? I'm not hungry, you know? And I'm like, oh my God, is that something about war? Or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. It's just such a, there's so much going on in the movie though. Like it's quite, as you said, on a rewatch, you'll probably be able to kind of get a lot more out. Like there was a bit where two guys came up to, I think, Jorah and the Jester and the King. I could be wrong. And then they just started riding off and I was like, are they the traitor guys? And then he like kills them and I'm like, you know, in that big wide shot, like he's just chasing the horses away. I feel like it's those decisions where he just goes, I'm going to shoot this wide. They're going to go so far away that you almost can't tell who's on which horse. But one will drop off the horse and you'll be like, oh shit, I guess he killed him.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just think some of the choices like that, as you said, to keep it crazy wide. Like sometimes it was like, I mean, I didn't actually keep track of, but is there no proper close-ups, like just a face?
The only one I can think of at the top of my head, and I would probably even describe it as a mid-shot, is when the king, Hidetora, is in the third castle being besieged by his two sons, and the flaming arrows are flying through the house, and it's just a shot of his face. As he's sitting, everyone's dead around him.
Probably a mid-shot though, true?
Yeah, because it's the closest we kind of get into a character's face. It felt like he's really the only character that gets the close-ups, quote unquote. And watching him degenerate over the course of the film, like really, really very striking. And Lady Cade, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but that's the female character we were talking about who... When she after the first brother is killed in that skirmish at the third castle, and the second brother returns, and she has that one-on-one scene, and she walks around and starts closing all the doors, and I just remember feeling so uneasy, and think, what is she gonna do? And she grabs his knife, and just cuts the side of his throat. I'm not sure if you noticed, but she just runs the knife along the side.
Yeah, no, and he's got like the little blood thing.
Just the subtlety there, and it's any other director would have cut in.
Yeah, no,
we have to get a cutaway.
Moments like that.
We have to show that. No, you don't. You can let all of this drama play out.
Yeah, let us soak it up. Let us notice when we notice. Let it. Yeah, 100%.
I think one of my favorite shots in the movie is shortly prior to this, before the king's left, and the king has a conversation with Lady Cade, and it's standing. They're standing.
Is that the one on the mount?
No, it's like on a. It's in the castle, but it's just the sun setting behind them.
Yes. So they're on the castle walls or something.
Yeah, right? And the camera's looking up at them, and there's pink clouds in the sky. So they've just waited for the perfect time of day. You can see the orange sun hitting, kind of silhouetting kind of everyone. And they just let the shot run. And it's 3 shots in one from memory, or at least 2. But we kind of start and it's the king and Lady Cade. And she's kneeling and he has such a great line where, I killed your whole family. If you would just look at me with hatred, it would be easier than the way you look at me now. Because he knows, he's racked with guilt, I think, essentially, is the underpinning of this character, is that he's got everything he ever wanted, but it all came at just all the horrible shit.
He would have killed so many people.
It's not at all surprising that he's driven mad, And also not surprising that he would, I suppose, try and pass it on before he's finished. I mean, before he dies, to hand the kingdom off. But the younger son just knows, this is going to mean a power struggle. This is going to mean chaos.
Yeah, the king is so weirdly naive where he's like, I'll retain my titles, and everyone's like, and he's like, and I'll give it to the older son who's clearly not the right one, and everyone's like, it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's,
well, there's a great concept about the idea that when the king becomes tyrannical in mythology, that the fool is the only one who can speak truth freely. And we really see that embodied in this movie. We really see that.
Because the fool's jumping around him, mocking him? Is that what you mean? Like, just speaking like...
Anyone else who speaks against the king is ousted, and even his own son, you know? Like, nobody can speak truth except the fool. The fool is speaking truth to the king the entire time. Yeah, go on.
So I was just going to say, with that, there was one moment early in the film before they go off on their, like, you know, we're travelers, 3 of us, look at us, what a crazy bunch, you know, which I loved. Not that they said that or it was like that. I got that, but I was like, spin-off series? But the fool at one point just goes, something, you fucked up, king, you fucked up, cunt, and then runs off, and I'm like, dude, you're dead. Like, what the fuck, cunt? And then he shoots someone to save the fool at one point. I was like, that kind of sparks everything, which is a really interesting, like, I don't know. It's fascinating because he's clearly like, hey guys, everyone just be friends. This is like, we're going to do it like this. I don't know, but he immediately starts kind of, I don't know. He kind of, I don't know. He kind of falls into it, but then... Also, the moment that his castle gets besieged, I remember being like, I've missed a scene. Like, oh my God, this escalated out of nowhere. Like, because I knew things were going to be, you know, bad and there was going to be tension. But it kind of felt like there was a moment where I'm like, I'm not going to get up off my couch and check the, you know, like click the remote and find out. But it feels like it's the end of the movie. I'm like, this is the end of the movie. But it was kind of more of like a red wedding. Like, no, that's halfway through the, you know, movie shock. Like a, you know, Psycho style, kind of like, oh, all right. Which I thought was very effective because the way the music kind of was really melancholy and kind of a bit slow. It wasn't like dramatic, like, you know, like we're fighting and we could get out of this kind of music. It was just very, they're coming through the gates. There's lots of shots of just men with like 4,000 arrows in them just lying there, like all shot so beautifully, but it was like very harrowing and like, slow and tragic. Like he wasn't just like, oh shit, there's fire, sword out, cut, get out of there, look at me, I'm a badass king getting out of here. He was just like sitting there in silence and arrows were flying everywhere, just fire, so much fire. That bit where he walks out of that castle, I was just like, I can't believe they've lit this castle on fire.
They built a castle and burnt it. They had to.
They just lit it on fire, and then like main character walk out of here while 5,000 extras like freak out, and the way they give him that line was like, I don't know, like a god. Like it was just, that's probably my favorite scene in a thing I've seen. I don't know, not ever. I say ever all the time. I'm always like, it's the greatest thing I've ever seen. But it's like, I don't know. I've seen some pretty cool things. I don't know. We've all seen what I've seen. But it's like, it's that moment though where he steps out. That really for me was like even in just the seconds after where the king's actually left the whole kind of temple area, like the fortress area or whatever. And there's the burning castle like main area. There's the 400,000 extras or whatever the fuck they've got. Then the two main characters like come into the foreground and are like doing a whole thing, and he's like, if you don't kill him now, you'll you know, you've got to fucking do the whole yards, go all the way. And he's like, oh, I don't know, that fire's pretty intense, dude. Don't you think we've done enough? And then, I don't know, like all of that's happening, but that fucking house is on fire. Like you can't do that more than once. Like, I don't know. I was just in awe. I was like, how did they do this? So much of this movie felt like I was actually just watching it happen, where the idea that they were like, cut, everyone do that again.
When it finished, I actually thought, this movie's so good, I don't know that I'm qualified to talk. I mean, we're not qualified to talk about anything, but I especially felt unqualified talking about this. It feels like a league above. It feels so much more. That's the true precursor to Game of Thrones in a lot of ways. And maybe even
so much of this, I was like, this is why I loved Game of Thrones. It's like,
but so much more
conniving and like, I don't know. It's just, there's so much like, It's you know what I think it was that really kind of made me think when medieval stuff gets good and they do it right, at least for me, what really kind of gets in there sometimes is things like this king is like, all right, I'm a bloody warlord king, and I've taken over these 3 castles, Castle A, Castle B, and C. I love how they were just called that. I was like, simple, thank you, movie. Doesn't matter what they're fucking called. But that just premise of him being like, all right, so I'm old and I'm about to die, but you know, so who's up for this? He's like, well, it's the 3 sons, and it's the eldest son, and it's just that it's the same dynamic as Stannis and all of his brothers in Thrones. It's just like as soon as someone's the eldest, or the youngest, it's that already has a dynamic in every family. Then you make it the first son gets everything, and that line they only mention it briefly, but it kind of starts fueling all the things where he's like, just because I was born 12 months later, every single fucking day of my life. And he's a piece of shit. And often, when it's the most compelling stories, the person who's fit for the role is not the one who's destined for the role. And
it's very
I love all that.
Brother, it was the most fit. The middle brother was the clearly most unfit and the most indecisive. And the oldest, he just didn't see anything coming.
It's the way he gets shot in the back without kind of getting that close up of his face or anything, it like took me the moment where they actually explained it.
Yeah,
in movies where they're like, here's the scene where they explain it, and I'm like, yeah, movie, I fucking just saw that. Stop treating me like I'm a 12-year-old or I'm too drunk to pay attention. But this time I'm like, that was like the moment where he's like tells him it's like a stray shot. I was like, holy shit, was that the guy who just got shot? That's fucked up. And then he like looks at the gun for a second, and there's that pause, and he throws the gun to the ground, and I was like, oh my god, cheeky but not so cheeky, it's very, I love that moment. I don't know, there's something about just that, like, he's like, oh, someone shot him, and the guy just looks at his gun, he's like, ooh. I don't know, it's such a good movie. What did you think of the Fool character?
Really good performance, so much energy. I saw the actor is as his stage name is just Peter. So everyone else has these long Japanese names, and then right in the middle of it I just see Peter. So I clicked on his name. He gave himself the stage name Peter because of it seems like he was quite a flamboyant Japanese performer, very well known, and a lot of people likened him to Peter Pan because he had like very tight fitting slim clothing, so he took that title and used it as a stage name.
I love it. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting to have it be such a major character.
Very Kurosawa to make a decision like that. I think that's really just what it's kind of what Star Wars does well, You've got like a really good mix because even in life, you've got people that are really silly and you've got people that are ultra serious and people that are
the contrast, and the contrast of being.
And that's what Star Wars does well. I mean, it's got a bit of everything.
You want to have your slums, you want to have your smugglers, but then you want to have your guys who are like, look at me, I'm a high council man.
And it allows you to have moments of levity and moments of drama, and you can interplay between them, and it becomes much more true. I think. Let's say take Christopher Nolan as an example, could maybe use a character like that in a couple of his films. And I think that's partly why I enjoy Inception, because there's Tom Hardy doing a bit of that. He's a little... He's this kind of going against the... every Christopher Nolan film has very Christopher Nolan characters. And everyone's very serious and straight-faced and dour. So just throwing in a Tom Hardy to make jokes and call people darling and dress a bit funny, and you know what I mean?
Give a bit of like difference and a bit of like splash to it.
Yeah, and that, absolutely.
I don't know. At first I was just like, this jester's asking to be killed. Yeah. I don't know. I was like, keeps bloody like, I don't know, like I was like, I don't know, like I've seen Game of Thrones. You're gonna get your goddamn tongue cut out. Stop it. And then by the end, like as you said, they're definitely saying some pretty epic poetic stuff of like, this is just humans, we love to suffer or whatever the fuck. There was lots of little moments where I'm like, I should have written that down. There was one bit where someone said something like, I don't know, something about the just like men love sorrow more than happiness and this and that, and just very poetic and epic. And I was like, so true. I love this.
Yeah.
This is like classic. Like,
There's almost too much to process in a single viewing. And
yeah, I actually thought earlier today, I was like, I almost wish I'd seen this the start of the week so I could have watched it 2 or 3 times. Then I feel like I'd really be like, all right, here's what I have to say about this.
Certainly.
But I was also just like, you know what? It's the best movie ever. Everyone should see it. I wish Kurosawa was still alive and had directed Game of Thrones season 8. That's all I want. That's what I think. Because all I thought for that middle act was, not all I thought, but after watching the movie, I kept thinking, can you just imagine if like Daenerys had been like the king in that scene in the middle of the scene, and like every main character was like besieging that castle to kill her? Just, I don't know. Every time I see anything epic, I'm always like, I wish it was Thrones, because then I'd care more.
Yeah.
Because I cared so much, but I also like, I've just been introduced to this person. It's not someone I've, read 40,000 pages of and all that bullshit, watched those episodes so many times. But it's so epic, and it was very Thronesy, so.
And I think this movie proves that epic does not, in essence, mean 2 armies running at each other. Where I think that modern filmmakers think that's what it means. Yeah, that's what epic conjures in the mind.
Dude.
But you don't need that at all. You do not. And this movie
just make it epic.
More than And that's what really the downfall of Game of Thrones was that they were going for scale and epic over what we really loved about the show, which was the interpersonal relationships and the character dynamics and everything this movie does so well. It understands that there's an imbalance of power. So how would this actually play out, where you've got someone who hasn't earned their power with the bigger army is obviously going to make poor decisions over someone who actually has a pretty good knowledge and is making relationships with people and building, and the youngest brother is the hero of the film. And
he gets fucking shot by a stray fucking coward assassin in the night, essentially, as they retreat.
Which almost feels like just, that's what happens in real life.
No, yeah, exactly. It's the perfect way to kill him. Like, he's not going to die like it's fucking Troy fighting by the gates for the honor. It's like, it's very, they're just riding on horses. It's all over. The battle seems to be done. Castles are taken. It's all over. But because earlier he sent out assassins, boom, done. It's so brutal, man. When you said epic doesn't need to be like 2 armies actually fighting, I was suddenly like, you know what? I would have, if there had been no sword fighting in that final battle, I wouldn't even remember any differently. Because it's that kind of like, like the armies and just them being there and actually seeing an army appear over a hill in the distance. I just freaked out. I was like, what the fuck? How'd you even do that? How'd you coordinate that many people to do that?
Yeah.
It's so good, man. And like to the point where like if 20 people are on horses riding in a shot, I'm like, what the fuck? How'd you do it? But you do it like with all this, you got horses running into the forest and then running back out. And like that final battle reminded me a lot of watching my friends play StarCraft, just with the kind of go back and forward, back, and just kind of that moving really quick
game,
but like obviously to a lesser, slower extent. But the way that it's just the horses kind of going forward, and then they're like, retreat a bit, and like trying to move over here, and everyone's just trying to move, and everyone's just trying to move about, and like it's very chaotic. But he really knows. I mean, obviously at that point he's mastered the craft and is just flexing and playing in it, and it's just I don't know how he's able to do it the way he kind of I don't know. It'd be fascinating. I should probably research, and because it's kind of curious. It's like, does this guy like, is he storyboarding this like to the T, or is it like getting like double the footage and then like, is it the edit we're stitching together these battle scenes? And I don't know, because it feels to me, like the storyboards would look the same, the way that Studio Ghibli's probably do, because that's what they do, right? It's like the storyboards, and then they kind of go from it's like there's like thoughts and designs, like I don't know, I just kind of feel like and I just feel like in this movie it's like that set piece of him walking out of a burning temple castle thing down those stairs as the two armies of the two brothers who have betrayed him part ways as he exits. And then the brother...
beautiful piece of artwork.
It's the goddamn greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's the greatest thing ever.
I just want that shot playing in a frame on my wall. Like looping endlessly. Because it's better than any image I'll ever take. You know, it's fucking...
And it's made in a time when it was so real. Like, it just... I don't know, there's like this air to something like that where it just felt like... Yeah, every single shot in the whole film, except for one, felt 100% real. Like, if you told me there was any trickery...
Well, the colour from the film stock, there's no digital grading, there's no previewing footage, there's no watching... You know, you got to watch it back the next day or a couple after when, you know, everything's been shut down. So it's... Crazy. You know, it's just a... Yeah. The degree of difficulty... at this point in time is so much more than what it is now, yet the filmmaking on display is just... I mean, the best films get you into the illusion of the world, and this movie absolutely just made me believe in the illusion of cinema. Like, so few movies are able to. The more movies I watch, the harder it is for me to be fooled again.
Yeah.
But then I see something like this and I'm right back in. And I'm...
Yeah. Yeah, a movie like this makes me go, is it maybe just that I'm watching bad movies?
Yeah.
I keep being like, maybe I'm just getting old and cynical and I hate everything and life and everything and lockdown and blah, 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 blah. But then I'm like, no, I watch a movie like this. I'm like, no, I just watch bad movies.
Yeah.
I keep watching Mortal Engine. No, not that I am, but, you know, as an example, I just want to make clear, I'm not just repeating watching that movie. But, you know, it's like I watch a movie like that, I'm like, you know, it's all right. It's all right.
Until we finish this podcast.
No, don't curse me. But it's like, you know, like I watched that and I'm like, that's all right, you know? I had fun. And I'm defending it against you and all this stuff. Then I watch Rant and I'm like the whole movie, I'm just like, what the fuck? What the fuck? This is great. Like, what? I couldn't handle it. Like, it's so... I don't know, man. It's just, there's such a scale of intense import. Like, I don't know. There was like a moment where just like the middle son has a conversation with his three generals and they're just all, you know, sitting down on their knees and they're all like having a little council meeting and it's just like, I can't remember what happened, but it was just such an intoxicating scene of like, I was like, oh, look at these three guys kind of doing this thing, waving him this way, waving him that, and him sitting there and like, there's just, yeah, the way you kind of went through with everything, all the character motivations and the way that it built up to all these brothers kind of turning and betraying and stuff. I just thought it was so good, man. Like, yeah, I don't know. So good. I don't even think there was a single moment where I was like, you know? And with such great movies, like movies that are really, really special, sometimes it's like, you know, there'll be a moment where you're like, you know what? This isn't, I don't know, this element of it or this or that. But I just love it all. Like the whole king just wandering through the burned ruins of castles, of places he's destroyed, you know? And then kind of waking up from that and being like, why am I here? Like, it's like, oh, I don't know, that kind of like symbolic, like stumbling through the broken ruins of like his mind, but also the places, of all these places he's destroyed. I love the moment he kind of fully loses it and starts seeing like actual ghosts, or I don't know, like it's the moment where he freaks out and proper loses it. And then the jester is like dancing around him being like, you're seeing the dead, you're getting mocked by the dead. I'm like, yeah, that was like the one moment in the movie where I'm like, I get it, Jester character. I saw his facial expression. I understand what's happening. You don't need to yell at me. But then I was like, nah, he's more yelling at the actual king and mocking the king. I can't remember if we talked about it before, but just that bit where the guy brings back the head, and I remember being like, there's no blood at the bottom of that bag. I think this could be a trick. And then he mocks her with the fox head and salt. And he's all like, oh, it's that scene in particular was just such a, I don't know. The way they build up the characters where she's like, you must fucking murder that girl. And it's like, oh shit, and he tells his first, you know, his right-hand man. The right-hand man's like, fuck that shit. I'm not doing that. But then the next time we see him, it's like, fuck, he did it. But that's like, oh my God, he's risking his life. So like, I don't know. There's just such dramatic, intense stakes to such a weird, feudal medieval world with these kings and these emperors and just that whole dynamic of the world. I just find it so fascinating. It's so, I don't know. It's so scary. These people have power and it just grows in their family, All these brothers had that same allure to once Joffrey gets in season 1 where you're just like, oh, this is no good. Let's go back to the other king, please. Oh no, family lineage. This doesn't work. I just love it. It's just so intense to imagine it's just how they did it for so long. Like
when you don't earn power, you don't respect it, and I think that's what we.
When you don't earn anything, you don't respect it. I reckon probably.
Absolutely, and the youngest brother is probably the way he is because he's most aware of the fact that he's the furthest from it. Yeah,
he'll never get it. Yeah.
So all there is to look at the world as it is, and I mean the second brother has that there's that little bit of hope. It's only one person away, but the third is, if you're two away from the throne, you probably come to terms with the fact that you're not going to get it.
Yeah, yeah. Especially definitely to the second. The second's like, it's just one, Just one guy needs to die, Whereas the other guy, it's like his whole family has to go before he becomes king. So yeah, it's that different, and that mentality as they grow and it builds to them becoming the characters they are in this, which is, it's awesome.
I don't know what they were trying to say. Maybe you have an opinion, but some really beautiful shots of clouds.
Oh my God! Oh, that's the kind of stuff I always wish I wrote down. because I would have forgotten. But there is like 4 or 5 times it cuts to it.
Yeah, 4 or 5, probably. Well, I can think of 3 in my head right now. I can see them moving and just like, wow, what a shot.
I think that was just... I mean, I don't know if there's anything specific. I was like, ooh, this is this. But it was just such a great way to be like, how do I show the scene change, the time passing, just that kind of generic thing you need to do where you're like, how do I get to the next bit? Where you kind of go, it's all, I don't know. To me, it felt like chapters. Like a closing, you close a chapter and you get a bit of that page where it's like, you don't have to read a whole page and you're like, oh, thank God, half a page. I love it. And then you turn the page and you got like a little picture or something to show the chapter and it's kind of just a refresher. I feel like that's what it gave me, where it was just kind of like a scene would happen and then it would be like, poof, and it would almost have the effect of cutting to black, but it's kind of more beautiful and a slow turning thing. Because that's kind of what clouds are. They're kind of like, they're there, but they're always there, moving through time. I don't know. Or he was just looking up and being like, God damn, look at that cloud. Bloody camera guy, fucking film that cloud.
That cloud.
Like, right. He's like, oh, I guess. All right, why do we need this? And he's like, I don't know. I'll fucking figure it out in the edit. And then he, figured it out. But I think there's probably very deep meaning to it. Because it was very... Yeah, no, he didn't just find clouds. He was like, it'd be more like, cameraman, this week we're all taking a break. He's like, oh, really? He's like, oh, no, I'm sorry, not you. You have to sit on this rock and film clouds for a week. Find 4 good clouds, Because those clouds were perfect. They were rolling. They were beautiful. It was like cloud porn, So do you enjoy this? You've seen 4 of his movies, yeah?
Yeah.
Is this your favorite?
7 Samurai, Hidden Fortress, now Ram. Yeah.
Would this be your favorite one? Or?
I think so.
Yeah, I think this is way my favorite. Like, I really enjoyed 7 Samurai and Hidden Fortress, but 7 Samurai I feel like is like, oh, no, that's pretty good. But I don't know, man. This movie's so wild. Like, the king character, so crazy. Like, his journey is so crazy.
You know what the difference is? Is that I feel like Rashomon, 7 Samurai, and probably to a lesser extent the Hidden Fortress, we've seen filmmakers take those concepts, ideas, characters, dynamics, sequences, etc., and kind of run with them over time and take them in new directions. Where this movie, I don't know that anything has done this as well. I don't think...
Probably not.
I think, like, even thinking to something like The Last Samurai, I guess, which now, I mean, I'm going to probably watch and just go, oh, this isn't even a movie. I remember really, really, really enjoying that movie the first time I watched it. Especially the battle, but I just cannot imagine that it's gonna, what's the expression? Hold a candle to this.
Oh yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, we shouldn't hope for that. I don't to expect that of anything. It's like this was so grand, like it's just rich with like, just I don't know, just something about the way he filmed every shot in the movie was just so like. I don't know. Like, I don't know, man. It had almost something special to it. Like, he just like touched it. And it was just like, oh, God, look at that. Look at that. I don't know. But maybe it was the first one I've seen that he's made with color. And I think that actually really kind of gets me through a bit more. I just love color. Especially
it's not just color.
When it's this movie.
Like, it pops from the get-go. The green and blue of the grass and sky and the costumes.
It's so colourful. It's so vibrant. It's so luscious. I don't know.
I would say he uses black and white cinematography, as effectively as he can. I mean, shooting in black and white,
for sure.
It's very, very difficult to make the things you want to stand out.
I just think, as an added bonus, this is in colour and like you get that.
Yeah.
You get just even those moments where like forgotten her name. The lady who ends up bringing them all down, the main character lady, when she gets killed, just that explosion of red, like on the side of the thing, like just little things like that I found just the first scene with green grass, blue sky, every character's in a fluoro colored thing, kings in white. I was just like, I'm fucking in. Like the color, just looking at this movie, I was just so in.
Let me just touch on some of the things. I just did a little bit of reading kind of on and off as we were going back and forth there. But one thing that really did become more and more apparent as the film went on, and especially with that ending, is the, I suppose, nihilistic themes of the film. And I was just reading something then which reminded me, but he drops the image of Buddha at the
end when he falls,
the image of God. So what we're left with is a blind man looking over the edge of a cliff of nothingness in the burnt ruins of civilization. And it's there's a famous philosopher who very, very famously proclaimed that God was dead and that humanity would never recover. And the name of the philosopher escapes me, but he predicted many of the atrocities that would befall us in the 20th century. The rise of communism and genocide.
I thought you meant like the internet. I was like, what?
No. More
we'll have electric guitar.
Democide, the killing of people by governments, which was the number one cause of death of the 20th century, other than natural causes. And this theme does kind of recur. We get the idea that people have lost faith in the gods, and it's no mistake that he drops the picture of God over the edge of a cliff, and a blind man left standing there with absolutely no hope of anywhere to go. And someone put it much more eloquently here as I was reading. He drops the scroll of the Buddha his sister had given to him. Also his sister, who had Sue, who was pretty pure, had a belief in love and forgiveness, eventually she's then decapitated. There's no redemption there for someone who was good. And the fact that he drops the scroll of the Buddha his sister had given him, and just stands there, a blind man at the edge of a precipice, bereft of his God in a darkening world. This may symbolize the modern concept of the death of God. As Kurosawa also stated, man is perfectly alone. Tusamaru represents modern humanity. Jeez.
That's so funny. That's like a more eloquent thing that I've written here for the end. I just said a blind man at the edge of a cliff, really fucked. What's he to do? And I was like, that was the only note I wrote. Because at the end, I'm just like, my God, that blind man. That would just. But yeah, you're right with the thing. Paul, I hadn't kind of connected that extra dot, but that's so good. It's like so fucked up.
And I know that there's more in there. There's more conversations that occur about these themes that I can't quite remember exactly, which is why I am really looking forward to rewatching. And I think I will get a lot more out of it.
Definitely. There's definitely, I feel like, a lot of little moments where they like have conversations here or there that kind of, build up to this, I don't know, just very melancholy ending. Like, I don't know, there's no winner really at all. There's just like, I don't know, it ends with a blind man, like fucking stuck. It's fucking weird. That ending was so like, it's beautifully shot, but it's horribly tragic.
His whole family dead, his eyes gouged out by a warlord. And
that moment where we realise, who he is when we're in that cabin is so brutal. Like the king's fucking...
I actually thought he was the brother of Cade initially, but then we find out it's Sue, who is the wife of the other brother who escapes. Because they explain that, I think, a little later on. The fact that this movie has 9 out of 10 on Rotten Tomatoes, get fucked. Where did the 1 go? What did you take a point off for? All the critics on the internet? You're all wrong, first of all. 9 out of 10 ain't enough. No, I'm joking. But
I would give it a 10 though. Like I there's nothing I want more from it. Like it's so good.
Yeah, it's
so good. Yeah.
This is what cinema is all about. This is what it does at its best. It makes you think, it makes you feel, it keeps you in the moment. It gets you excited when things are building and tension's turning up and the characters just feel so true and nobody really feels kind of good or evil. Everybody just feels kind of...
just people in this world.
Yeah, the horrible result of circumstance, and it's kind of stark and it's very bleak.
It's very bleak.
One question. So at the beginning of the movie, the king falls asleep, and then when he wakes up, has the idea. Does he mention that he had a dream?
Yeah. So he wakes up. And he's like, I had a dream. It was awful, and something happened in it. I can't remember. He had a bad dream, and then he's like, "This is what we're doing."
I wonder what he said about that dream, because it was obviously some prophetic.
So super poetic, important stuff. Or maybe just kind of madness and nonsense. It's hard to say at this point.
Yeah.
But I'd imagine not necessarily every, but, a substantial part of the script is, pretty thought through, pretty, I don't know. If there's probably some...
You don't make a movie that looks this good and...
not think about it for... Yeah, I mean... I bet you we'd be both terrified by how quickly he made his next movie and had made the movie before this. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was about to say he probably spent 5 years making this movie, and I'm like, he probably spent like 2 years making this movie. Guy's such a son of a crazy badass. I don't know. I just feel like if I thought about making this movie, I don't know. It's just like looking at this movie is like looking at this is what I feel like I wish I could make Game of Thrones be. Like, I see the epicness and I'm like, oh, I can see these images in my mind. But then when he shot it, he shot all of it and all of it worked, or maybe bits didn't work, he cut, but dude's fucking like triple our age.
He shot it and he didn't have a fucking computer.
Oh my God. I don't even understand how they made it back then. Like, how they could be fucked.
They cut it with scissors and then tape it together, and
oh my
they
God.
literally. That's why it's called a cut.
Oh my God.
They cut the film and then they stitch it together, and then you go from one shot to the other.
I don't even.
I mean, by the 80s, they had much more. They were working on a higher level, but it's still
rudimentary compared to now, though, right?
Absolutely,
must be.
There's not even an an exposure. There's not a single frame of this movie that isn't perfectly exposed, that the colors aren't pristine, that everything you're meant to see, you can see perfectly. Oh, God. A shot that they could not have even planned that was perfect is when youngest brother, Blue Army, is in the foreground of the image. I can see the frame in my head. And the bigger army is riding in up in the top of the frame in the distance. And the clouds are rolling over and the sun is moving across the field, you know, as the clouds cover the sun. And literally as the army is rolling in, the darkness of the clouds is following them. And you can... It would have been just a perfect timing, something that you cannot plan for, you know? Yeah. That they just got that works absolutely brilliantly. And then again, when they send the lone rider across the field with the message...
Yeah.
He is just in the strip of sun as he's coming through, and it all just worked so beautifully, and there's a million moments like that in the movie, 1,000, you know.
I would say I'd argue. I mean, I'd have to rewatch it. I'm sure there's bits where I'm like, you know, that's great, but it's not the best. But it's most of this movie is like, honestly. It's the best stuff I've ever seen. I was just like looking at I was just like, what the fuck? It looks so good. It's so poppy. It's so colorful. It like, you know, like the bits where the armies are rolling through just like hundreds of soldiers, like army, smoke, dust. But then there'd be this red flags. Everyone's got their red flag on their back, you know? And so it's like the red army's coming through. And this has got, you know, at the end, the black army. And all their black armor and their black flags. And it was very, I don't know, there's a lot of craziness happening at times in the movie. I never felt like, oh shit, there's a lot going on. Oh no, I'm lost. You know, everything flowed perfectly, but there was.
I kept thinking I was lost, and then I would realize I'm not. You know, I kept thinking, there's so much going on. I can't. There's no way I'm gonna stay up with this movie. But it wasn't until the end when it closed off, and I just pulled Wikipedia up and I just skimmed over everything to make sure, and I realized, no, I've followed along. This movie is completely effective in its storytelling. It's just, I was thinking, this movie is too good for me to be able to comprehend properly. And there's probably large swaths that I've not even started to tap into interpreting properly. It's gotta be in my top 10.
Oh, big call.
And I mean, you know, you can't say that until you've seen it a couple of times, but I can't ask for more from a movie.
No, not really. For what it is, like, as all movies are, it's like they only are what they are, you know? This story is like, I don't know, it's an epic, grand, like, kind of tale of this family of power. And for what it is, it's so good. And I don't know. It's good at all the little character bits, like the moment where he reveals, you know, his plan, explains why it'll work via the arrows. But then the one son, who ends up being his, you know, the right son, like snaps them. It's just, I don't know, thematically very rich and just, it's so cool. I don't know. What else can I fucking say? I feel like a couple of weeks ago you said, how much longer can I suck this movie's dick or something like that? And I actually thought this week when I was watching this, I'm like, we should just start the movie instead of being like, this is spoiler talk where we talk spoilers. We should be like, this is spoiler talk where we just suck good movies' dicks or not. Like, I don't know, like, because I feel like that's all this episode was. It's just us being like. And then this bit was the greatest moment I've ever seen. And then this bit was also probably.
But then what followed it was truly the greatest moment.
Yeah.
Preceded and then followed both by two greater moments.
Because that's all.
All right, then let's ask the question. Do you have any criticisms?
Oh fuck, I don't know. There was a single moment actually when I was actually replaying some of the king getting taken over by his castle this morning. Because I was like, I want to have a refresher. I just want to watch this what I thought was like, it's either 2 minutes or 50 minutes with that action scene, or it's like 10 or 12 or something. Yeah. But where they storm the castle. And him coming out of the castle, and actually it might have been a bit later, because I kind of skipped around a bit this morning, just watching kind of, big scenes where the king does great kind of, I don't know if I've talked enough about, but the way he'd kind of be in one pose and then just be like, he's so dramatic, and his face is so expressive and kind of cartoony in like, I don't know, maybe cartoony is not the right word, but just, uber expressive, just like uber expressive. And he got like that kind of I've gone mad paint and his makeup and stuff. There was one moment.
Yeah, they've shadowed around features to accentuate.
I think there's a few shots in the movie where his face is maked up, but because he's kind of bald on the top of his head, that's not makeup. And there was like a thick line where I could see that makeup. Oh. I don't know if that's maybe a choice, or if just they went, I don't know. But like that was probably the only single thing in the movie where I went, it's a movie. Okay, look at the makeup there or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that was on the rewatch this morning of a single scene out of context. Do you know what I mean? Like in the heat of the movie, I didn't even notice. It was simply, you know what I mean? Like it's such a small flaw. Here I am sucking more film dick. It's like, oh God, yeah. All right.
Spoiler Talk is produced by KCBN Studios and Space Kraken Media.